on the Sabbath. Now it is on another Sabbath that Jesus visits a synagogue near the Sea of Galilee. Present is a man with a withered right hand. Now the scribes and the Pharisees are watching closely to see whether Jesus will heal him. And finally they ask this: is it lawful to cure on the Sabbath? Now the Jewish religious leaders believe that healing is lawful on the Sabbath only if life is in danger. They teach, for example, that on the Sabbath it is unlawful to set a bone or bandage a sprain. So the scribes and the Pharisees are questioning Jesus in an effort to get an accusation against him. Jesus, however, knows their reasonings. At the same time, he realized they have adopted an extreme, unscriptural view as to what constitutes a violation of the Sabbath day requirement prohibiting work. Thus, Jesus sets the stage for a dramatic confrontation by telling the man with the withered hand, "Get up and come to the center." Now, turning to the scribes and the Pharisees, Jesus says this: "Who will be the man among you that has one sheep, and if this falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will not get hold of it and lift it out?" Since a sheep represents a financial investment, they would not leave it in the pit until the next day, perhaps to sicken and cause them loss. Besides, the scripture says this: "The righteous one is caring for the soul of his domestic animal." Now, drawing a parallel, Jesus continues in this manner. He says this: "All considered, of how much more worth is a man than a sheep? So it is lawful to do a fine thing on the Sabbath." Now, the religious leaders are unable to refute such a logical and compassionate reasoning, and they remain silent. Now, with indignation as well as grief at their obstinate stupidity, Jesus looks around. Then he says to the man, "Stretch your hand. Stretch out your hand." And he stretches it out, and the hand is healed. Instead of being happy that the man's hand is restored, the Pharisees go out and immediately conspire with the party followers of Herod to kill Jesus. This political party evidently includes members of the religious Sadducees. Originally, this political party and the Pharisees are openly opposed to each other, but they are solidly united in their opposition to Jesus. Alright, so the Bible verses for this particular chapter are Matthew 12, 9 through 14, Mark 3, 1 through 6, Luke 6, 6 through 11, Proverbs 12:10, and lastly, Exodus 20, verses 8 through 10. There are 3 questions for this particular chapter. What is the settling, for a dramatic confrontation between Jesus and the Jewish religious leaders? Number 2, what do these religious leaders, these Jewish religious leaders, believe regarding healing on the Sabbath? And the third one is, what illustration does Jesus use to refute their wrong views? This is Teachable Moments with April podcast Bible study for the greatest man who ever lived, chapter 32, what is lawful on the Sabbath. So for this particular episode, we're just going to strictly go over the Bible verses for the chapter. So what we're going to be looking at is Matthew 12, 9 through 14, Mark 3, 1 through 6, Luke chapter 6, verses 6 through 11, Proverbs 12:10, and Exodus 20, 8 through 10. Alright, so we're going to start with Matthew 12, 9 through 14. Going on from that place, he went into their synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there, looking for a reason to bring charges against Jesus. And they asked him, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "If any of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Therefore it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath." Then he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he stretched it out and was completely restored. just as sound